So for many years, he was considered on the vanguard of what's called independent or what they call offbeat cinema because of his connections with Andy Warhol and everybody involved in the factory that Warhol would guide. But Paul Morrissey, who died at age 86 on October 28th, was much more than a filmmaker. He was a role model and what they call mentor to many in the film industry on the East Coast of the States, specifically in New York. So today we're going to be talking about his long and varied career and trying to touch most of the bases because there's a lot. Now, he's an American film director, born in New York City, known for his early association with Andy Warhol. His most famous films included Flesh, Trash, came out in 1970, Heat, Flesh for Frankenstein 1973, and Blood for Dracula 1974, all starring his muse, Joe D'Alessandro. 1971's Women Revolt and the 80s New York trilogy 40 Deuce, Mixed Blood, and Spike of Bensonhurst were his big creations. From 65 to 73, Morrissey ran the publicity and filmmaking unit for Warhol at the factory. First at 231 East 47th Street and then at 33 Union Square West in New York. Additionally, between 66 and 67, he managed the Velvet Underground at Nico and co-conceived and named Warhol's traveling multimedia, happening the exploding plastic inevitable. In 69, alongside Warhol and publisher John Wilcock, he launched the print magazine Interview, hiring its longtime editor, Bob Calasello, in autumn 1970. In 71, Warhol and Morrissey purchased Ethon in Montauk, New York, a 12-hectare oceanfront estate on a Long Island shore for the big price of $225,000. Morrissey would sell the estate in 2006 to J. Crew CEO Millard Drexler. In 98, Morrissey was given the Jack Smith Lifetime Achievement Award at the Chicago Underground Film Festival. Now, a alumni of Fordham University, again born in Manhattan to Irish Catholic parents Joseph and Eleanor. He grew up in Yonkers. He was the second youngest of 5 children, and Morrissey attended Fordham Prep and Fordham University, both Catholic schools. Upon graduation, he enlisted with the United States Army, going through basic training at Fort Benning and Fort Dix, achieving the rank of first lieutenant. While on reserves from active duty, he moved to the East Village in late 60, opening the Exit Gallery, a small cinematheque at 36 East 4th Street, where he programmed a mix of underground films and documentaries, including Icarus, the first film by Brian De Palma. Simultaneously, Morrissey began making his own short, silent 16mm comedies, including Mary Martin Does in 62, Taylor Mead Dances in 63, and Like Sleep in 1964. Introduced by poet and filmmaker Gerard Malanga, he first met Warhol in June 65 as the Astor Place Playhouse, where Morrissey was having a retrospective of his work. Warhol, taken by Morrissey's resourcefulness and filmmaking expertise, invited him to the factory to assist him with his next project, Space. Filmed at the East 47th Street factory in July 65 and featuring Edie Sedgwick, Danny Fields, Donald Lyons, who was the friend of Morrissey's from his Fordham years, and folk singer Eric Anderson. Several more Warhol-Morrissey collaborations followed, including My Hustler, 65, The Velvet Underground and Nico, A Symphony of Sound in 66, Mora Milky Vet, 66, Chelsea Girls, Imitation of Christ in 67, Tub Girls in 67, Bike Boy in 67, I Am Man in 67, San Diego Surf 68, and Lonesome Cowboys in 68. Now, a lot of these movies dealt with, like I said, the gay motif, or what he called the hustler kind of thematic, which was very big in New York City. Now, while filming a scene in the Manhattan apartment of John Wilcock for Andy Warhol's 24-hour movie 4 Stars, he first met Joel D'Alessandro, who happened to have friends living in the same building. Morrissey immediately cast him in a scene that would later appear in Loves of Ondine in 67, D'Alessandro's first appearance in a factory film. After the attempt on Warhol's life in June 68 by Valerie Solanas, Morrissey directed his first solo feature, Flesh. Produced for $4,000 by Andy Warhol and starring D'Alessandro alongside Maurice Brattle, Jerry Miller, Geraldine Smith, Patty DeVarnville, Lewis Walden, Jackie Curtis, and Candy Darling, the film was a big box office hit in West Germany with over 3 million tickets sold. Now, the commercial and popular success of Flesh continued in the 70s with 2 more films directed by Morrissey as part of his trilogy, produced by Warhol and starring D'Alessandro. Trash, which featured Jane Forth and Holly Woodlawn, the first transgender actors ever cast as the girlfriend of a lead character, and Heat, a satire about Hollywood based on Sunset Boulevard, starring D'Alessandro alongside, of all people, Sylvia Miles. Now in 71, Morrissey executive produced and directed Women in Revolt, a send-up of the women's liberation movement, starring trans Warhol superstars Jackie Curtis, Holly Woodlawn, and Candy Darling. A film still of Candy Darling from Women in Revolt appears on the cover of the Sheila Take a Bow single by the Smiths, the second such instance of a Morrissey film appearing on the cover of a Smiths record. And of course, the lead singer was called Morrissey. Now, reflecting on the period, interview with Lucy Hughes Hallett for British Vogue in March 78, Morrissey said, "To me, movie making is dealing with personalities. People are always the way they are in every film. Like John Wayne or Clint Eastwood, that kind of film star personality, which is not very fashionable now. It doesn't really matter what the camera's doing, as long as the people are worth watching." Now, in his post-factory years, he went to Rome in 73 and directed two back-to-back features, Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula, starring D'Alessandro and Udo Kier. Produced by Carlo Ponti and presented by Warhol, their international success propelled Morrissey out of the factory and into his first and only attempt at directing a studio film, The Hound of the Baskervilles, co-written by Morrissey, Peter Cook, and Dudley Moore. It was, of course, a commercial and critical flop. Morrissey then moved to LA in the late 70s and returned to independently produced features, starting with Madame Wang's in 81, a satire in the LA punk scene, starring Patrick Schoen, alongside Morrissey's niece, Christina Indri. Now, returning to New York City in the early 80s, he began a collaboration with playwright and screenwriter Alan Bone, directing a film version of his 81 play 40 Deuce in 82, starring Orson Bean and Kevin Bacon. Yes, you're hearing right. Morrissey worked again with Bonet on the screenplays for Mixed Blood in 85 and Spike and Bensonhurst in 88, completing a trilogy of films taking a satirical, emphatic look at the political, social, and moral decay of New York City and its outer boroughs during the Ed Koch years, which was, I think, 77 onwards. Now, when film critic Jonathan Rosenbaum asked Morrissey in the 75 interview for why he portrayed drug addicts and street hustlers with some sympathy, despite his personal convictions as a lifelong conservative Catholic, he responded, "A human being is a sympathetic entity. No matter how terrible a person might be, someone with an artist's point of view will try to render his individuality without condensation or contempt. That's a natural function of a dramatist. The movies I have made have no connection to my personal beliefs. They don't say do this, don't do that. They portray a kind of emptiness in people who are living through a transitional cultural period when they don't know who they are or what to do." Now, Morrissey's last feature, of course, was News from Nowhere, which made its U.S. debut at Film at Lincoln Center in fall 2010. Now, speaking to screenwriter, biographer Gavin Lambert, filmmaker George Cukor said of Morrissey's work, "He makes a marvelous kind of world and a marvelous kind of mischief, holding nothing back and just watching it happen. Personal expression is a much abused expression, but his films are real expression. Nobody has done anything like it. The selection of people, the casting is absolutely brilliant and impertinent. The life they see, the gutter they see, or the world they see is so funny and agonizing, and they see it so vividly with such original humor." Now, unfortunately, he died of pneumonia at a hospital in Manhattan yesterday, Sunday, October 28th, at the age of 86. The key filmography, of course, Mary Martin Does It in 62, Peaches and Cream in 64, The Origin of Captain America in 64, very interesting if you can find it, My Hustler, More Milky Vet, Chelsea Girls, The Velvet Underground Equal, Imitation of Christ, Tub Girls, I, a Man, Bike Boy, The Nude Restaurant, 4 stars, San Diego Surf, Flesh, Lonesome Cowboys and Trash, Woman in Revolt, Heat, L'amour, Flesh for Frankenstein, Blood for Dracula, Hound of Baskervilles, in 78, Madame Wang's, 40 Deuce, Mixed Blood, Beethoven's Nephew, Spike and Bensonhurst, if you can find it, I think it's on video, and Changing Fashions, Verushka, A Life for the Camera, based on the model, and News from Nowhere. So, a great life in film over 50 years. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can find his work in independent cinema. But Paul Morrissey is considered, I think, one of the most unheralded directors and motivators of what he called the new movement. I call it the new movement of the 60s into the 70s and 80s in New York City. You used to call them back in the day freaks, but there were more than freaks. They were very talented people, and basically their collective, or the factory, was groundbreaking. Now, this was the factory again was at New Warhol Studio in Manhattan, which had 4 locations, between 63 and 87. Now, this motivated music, this motivated movies, acting, all different stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, the idea about Andy Warhol and Morrissey together working on a project, that's sort of like two sports athletes like Gretzky and Sidney Crosby being on the same team. Very, very good for each other, a very good talent, and like I said, Morrissey, if you're a love of film, he will be missed. So that's the story of the legend of Paul Morrissey. If you like what we're doing here with our vintage movie tribute podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And ladies and gentlemen, if you can find most of his work, please watch it because it's very interesting. It's unlike probably anything you've ever seen before because everything's on the screen. Thanks for listening.